Hi guys. So here I am with part 3. Part 2 is uploading right now. So part 3. So we left off found out December that the kids especially had to go back to Oregon after the new year for the adoption to start its process, and if we wanted to adopt the kids, one of us had to go back with them. So I volunteered as tribute, I guess you can say, to move back to Oregon. So middle of December, we started looking for, like apartments or a little house, and I was in contact with this one guy who Roxy, who had a 3-bedroom small little house that we could rent for like $400 a month. I'm like, all right, we could do that. Deposit was like $250. I mean, it was a very ghetto house. But hey, we needed somewhere, and we wouldn't stay there, obviously. We would find something else. So I Western Union him the deposit, and he was like, okay, everything's good. I'm like, yeah, I will be there January 2nd, with the rest so we can move in. He's like, all right, cool. January 2nd, we load everything into the car that I'm going to need for an apartment. I had air mattresses, I had blankets, I had pillows, I had dishes, I had silverware, I had boxes of food. I mean, it was like deja vu. Like I had just done this. It felt like oh. So drove back to Oregon and went to meet the guy to get the keys to the apartment. Well, he never showed, and he worked at like this like crappy ghetto motel that I had to meet him at, and I was like, okay. So I like go in, and the one guy that's there, I'm like, yeah, I'm supposed to meet so and so. My name's Holly. I'm here to get the keys for, the house. And he had no clue what I was talking about. So he called the guy that I was supposed to be meeting, and he's like, oh, I already rented that house out. I'm like, okay, so where the hell is my deposit? He was like, oh, I kept it because you didn't send the rest with it. Like, what rest? It was like $250 for like a $400 a month 3-bedroom ghetto house. I go, you said $250 as a deposit. He's like, no, I meant $350. I go, you didn't say that. Like, here I am with 4 kids, a van full of crap, and no place to live. So, Roxy, what are you doing? You're chewing on stuff. Luckily, I had a friend that lived there. She was older. My husband taught her daughter YMCA basketball, or basketball. I mean, she was older. She had like a 15-year-old daughter. So she let us stay there at her house for the weekend. And her mom was actually nice enough to let us stay with her. Her, I want to say like adopted son, but it's not really adopted. Like a really close family friend lived with her, and he had gotten a trucking job and left. So she had 2 extra bedrooms. I would pay her so much a month, and I would be in charge of my own groceries and cleaning up after myself, my kid. Okay, that's fine. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. Because I was just a wreck that weekend. I was crying. I'm like, I was so emotional from everything, leaving my husband, getting some jackass ghetto person. Like, I was just a complete mess. And then the whole situation overall, like, I was done. I'm proud to say that I needed to drink that night. After my kids went to bed, I had a few. So we went to her mom's house, which is like a 10-minute drive. And her mom actually lived around the block from our original house in Oregon. Not our original, but the one that we had moved from in August. So she was like our neighbor, pretty much. So we moved in with her. You know, the kids started the school, which was right across the field. Pretty much from that point on, it was just mostly, you know, home visits from the caseworker, and just living, I guess. The family friend had ended up moving back home, moving back in with my friend's mom, and so I mainly slept. So then that they had a spare bedroom, and then a mattress. So the two girls slept in the bed in the bedroom, and then Virgil actually had a mattress out in the living room, you know, away, not in the middle of the floor or anything, but away, kind of in a corner. And then Kanan had his pack and play, and I just crashed on the couch. It was a tight squeeze. So, I mean, but from that point, I mean, the kids started school. Jeff came down. I mean, we were, in January? So, I think Jeff only came down to Oregon 3 times in, 2.5 years. So, I mean, we would come to Spokane, every other weekend when the kids were on spring break, when they were on Christmas break, summer break. It was a lot of driving, and it was just a lot, you know. Virgil especially was very, they had moved back to weekly visits with mom, so he knew on a certain day that he was going to go see her, and he would just completely act out. It was hard to see, but yet it was hard to deal with. They had terminated visits, I want to say March or April. They had terminated visits with mom when we had, no wait, I want to say it was longer than that, because we had gone through a mediation. And she didn't like our mediation rules, which was letter and a picture once a month, or I would make a Facebook page just of the kids' info and update it daily, and she could have access to that, but she didn't want that. She wanted phone calls every day, letters every month, visits every other month, and we're like, no, we're not doing that. So it ended up being a closed adoption, and then rights were shortly terminated. Visits were shortly terminated, just because every visit she couldn't handle all 4 kids together. So I mean, from this point on, it was pretty much, there'd be a court hearing for something, she'd appeal it. Then it would go to appeals court, and then it went to, I mean, we finally got our own place, March of 2010. Yeah, March of 2010, we finally got the kids and I got our own apartment. Just because we didn't know how long this was going to take, and that many people in, the kids called her grandma, in grandma's house was just so much. And, she was an older lady, so she had all the little knickknacks, and Kanan was starting to walk, and I was like, okay, we need to find something. I love you to death. The kids love you. We appreciate everything you have done, but it's time for us to get our own place, because we don't know how long we're going to be in, we're going to be here. So, since I wasn't working, I was able to qualify for Section 8 housing. So, I had gotten a 3-bedroom, 1-bath apartment on the ground floor, thank God, for like $115 a month. And we went back to the organization that is very close with foster parents. We went back there and got, some couches, up the street neighbors are doing something with their yard, so you have big old trucks coming through here all day. We got couches. It was pretty ghetto, I want to say. The kids didn't have beds or dressers. They had air mattresses and pillows and blankets. They had toys, but we pretty much all lived out of a suitcase. Since January of 2009, we were living out of a suitcase. Of course, when we would go, after we got our own place, and we would come back up to Spokane, I'd grab stuff that I need, hangers, those, kind of like those little drawer things they're like 3 drawers, and they're plastic. Bought a couple of those, for the kids as dressers. But I pretty much lived out of a suitcase, and I hated every minute of it. It was a nice apartment complex. It was a couple blocks from the school, so the older ones walked to the school. It was just pretty much, at that point Mom, would have another court date, and she would appeal something. It went so far that it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. Her appeal did, because she kept appealing the decision for her rights to be terminated. That's what it was. Termination of parental rights. She would appeal and went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And they had denied it too. So her rights were finally terminated. I'd say like June, July, August of 2010. Yes, 2010. Yeah, okay. I'm in 2010 now. So her rights were finally terminated, and the older kids, they really didn't understand. They just knew that they wouldn't be seeing her ever again. And the oldest T, she was like, oh, thank God. Virgil, his mental capacity, he would ask about her from time to time, and I'm just gonna be like, I don't know. They kept asking when we could go home to Dad's home, And now all I could tell him was, I don't know. The judge has to sign the papers. Judge has to sign the papers. That would be my answer. The judge has to sign the papers. He hasn't signed them yet. We were finally in touch with, the state had provided a lawyer for us. So we were in contact with them, or I was, in contact with them on a weekly basis. So it was fall time now. Jeff came down for Halloween. Yeah, he came down for Halloween and went trick-or-treating at our old neighborhood. So I went trick-or-treating, and then Thanksgiving and Christmas went to Spokane. At that point, I'm calling the lawyer, like, on a weekly basis. Have you heard anything? Have you heard anything? Because all the paperwork was now in the judge's hands, but, we were just waiting for him to sign it. And I'm like, I was asking the lady at the lawyer's office, I'm like, so, how quickly does he get to things like this? And she's like, oh, it could take months. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, really? I'm like, we've already been here for like 2+ years. Let's a couple more months. Why not? So I was like, okay, so what's the process after he signs it? When can we leave? That's my biggest question. When can we pack up our little apartment and go home? She was like, as soon as the judge signed the papers, you guys are, free and clear. You'll get all the new birth certificates and stuff. She was going through it with me. I'm like, okay. So then I called the caseworker, and I was talking to her, and she was still coming to the house every 30 days to see the kids, and so I was talking with her, and I'm like, okay, so this is what so-and-so said from the lawyer's office. Is that normally how it goes? Is that going to be, acceptable? And she's like, once you get confirmation that those papers have been signed, then you can leave. I'm like, okay, that's all I needed to know. Just know, I just want to know that I have the okay to get the hell out of Dodge when those papers are signed and we get that phone call saying, go ahead and go. That's all I want to know. So, we were, I'm trying to, okay, so Christmas we went to Spokane, came back, and then the weekend of my daughter's birthday, I think it was a weekend. It was January 10th. We came back up here for her to have her birthday up here. And then we went back to Oregon. And then a couple weeks later, we, okay, yeah, so this is where it gets good. I'm almost done, I promise. Okay, so the weekend of February, I want to say it was a weekend. It was February 8th, and if that was the week, I'm not sure if that was a weekend. I can't remember. But it was like a couple days after we came back. Right around February 8th was my son's birthday, and we were up here for his birthday as well. We came up here for his birthday. I can't remember if it was a weekend or not, but anyway, a couple days after that, the kids had gotten home from school. I picked Kira up from the bus stop from preschool. My phone kept going off. I'm like, okay, I got email. So I know it was a Monday though. It was a Monday. Kane's in his chair eating a snack, and I'm in the kitchen doing something, and I read my phone, and it's from the lawyer's office. saying, I don't know, I might cry again, like I did in my last video, but I'm gonna try not to. She was saying unofficially that the adoption papers have been signed, and we're free to go. I dropped my phone in the sink. Luckily, there was no water in there. Dropped my phone in the sink, and I collapsed on the floor. And all of this built up emotion and a happiness and relief just kind of lifted up off my shoulders, and I was like, I felt like I was in La La Land. Like, this was not real. Like, did I just read what I read? So I was on the floor, and I reached up over the sink, and I grabbed my phone again. My eyes are all blurry because of the tears, and I'm reading through this email, and I'm sobbing so hard, and my oldest comes in the kitchen, and she's like, "What's wrong, Mom? What's wrong?" And I handed her the phone, and she read, and she's like, all that really got to her was papers were signed. And because this whole time I've been telling them that when the papers are signed, they'll let us know, and then we can go back home to Dad. She dropped the phone, and she fell on the floor and just kind of like snuggled near me and just cried. Like, it was so surreal. Like, are you kidding me? It took me, it was about a half hour. We just sat there. Virgil was off in his room. He came out and asked what was wrong, and we told him that the papers were signed, and he was like, yay, and he went back to his room to play. Kieran and Kanan were a little too small. I just told them that we get to go home to Daddy, and they were excited about that. And so I forwarded the email to the caseworker, and I put in the subject, I put something in the subject. It was kind of smart-assy, yet serious. I'm like, is this good enough? Is this good enough for you? Or something like that. And then I called her, because I'm like so impatient like that. So I called her, and she didn't answer. And I was like, crap. Waited 5 minutes, I called her again. Sorry, it's breakfast time. 8:40. I've been at this for an hour already. Well, I waited 5 minutes, and I called her again. She didn't answer, so I hung up. I'm like, do. So I waited 10 minutes, and I called her. She answered. I'm like, yeah, it's Holly. I'm like, have you checked your email? And she's like, no, I just got back to my desk. I'm like, check your email. She's like, okay. And she checked it, and she read mine, and she's like, okay, I need to come see the kids one last time. Don't do anything drastic until until I see them. I'm like, okay, so when are you gonna come see them? And she's like, well, I'm free Wednesday evening. I'm like, okay, that'll give me enough time to get the school stuff together, get some packing done, get some boxes. Like, I was mile a minute. I'm like, checking things off my list. She's like, okay, so I'll see you Wednesday about 6:30. I'm like, okay. So then I called Jeff, my husband, and I told him, and he started crying at work. And then I forwarded him the email so he could read it, and I told him what the caseworker said, and he's like, okay, I'll take Thursday off. No. This last week was all... No, he said I'll take Friday off. His brothers were coming over from Seattle. Yes. Okay. So Tuesday, I'm calling the school. I'm calling the power company. I'm calling cable. I'm calling like everyone. I'm telling them I'm an apartment manager, because the apartments were based on a month lease, but yet in my case I didn't have to give 30-day notice. because she knew what was going on. And I told her from day one, as soon as we get that phone call, we're out of here. It may not even be a 30-day. She's like, okay, that's fine. Just know that we may keep some of your deposit for cleanup. I'm like, that's fine. So she knew. So kids go to school Tuesday. I call the school Tuesday. I'm like, yeah, their last day is going to be Thursday. They're like, okay. Caseworker comes Wednesday night and sees them and gives them hugs and everything like that. Keep in touch, send pictures and all that stuff. So Thursday morning, I squeeze the kids in the van and stuff that I don't mind leaving behind, like, not even, like, the cleaning stuff was, like, last, and, I took mostly the stuff that we always took with us when we went to Spokane, bathroom stuff, stuff like that. But this time I packed, like, all their toys up, and, so they could put them in their rooms at home, or in this home, actually, and I skipped that part. I skipped that part. The weekend we moved into our apartment, we also moved into, the year before, 2009, we moved into this house, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, yeah, it'll be 5 years, this coming March, or April. So yes, 2009, we actually moved into this house, that we're in now. I skipped that part. I don't know. I was starting to think, like, well, when the hell did this house come into play? But no, 2009, we moved into this house, and it really sucked because, like I said in my last video, like, I have to unpack everything that night of. Well, the following day, we were leaving to go back to Oregon. So, okay, so Thursday we left and drove up here, and my husband had got off work early that day and met us here, and it was all tearful because it was a tearful goodbye every time we had to leave. Like, the kid, like Kanan especially, he would be kicking and screaming, like, separation issues, like he did not want to leave, and that just tore at Jeff's heart. Like, it hurt him so bad to see the kids not wanting to leave, like, and I would cry because I hated the fact that I had to tear them from him and be like, we have to. So I turned out to be like the bad parent in the end. Go figure. So Friday, his brothers show up, and the kids went and registered for school. That morning I went and registered them before his brothers got here. And as soon as they got here, we left. We drove back to Oregon, cleaned the apartments head to toe, the floors, said goodbye to a really good friend that I had made at the apartment complex, turned in my keys. We had another full load in the van when we left because we had, like, the air mattresses that we had gotten. Just last minute stuff, picked up stuff that we had left there. We had finally packed up and went and said goodbye to some people, and that was it. We left. We were done. A couple days went by, or the weekend went by, and just getting everything unpacked and put away, or tossed because we don't need, or donate because we don't need, because we had a lot of doubles of a lot of, like, pots and pans and plates, and I know you can't go wrong with too many plates and stuff, but it just, like, was too much for me. Just I had to unpack everything. Like, put it all away. I was done. I was so done. And that Sunday night, or that Sunday morning, it was so surreal because Sunday mornings we would have breakfast, we would pack up, and we would go. It was so weird to know that after breakfast, I didn't have to pack up the van. I didn't have to load up the kids. I didn't have to deal with tearful goodbyes. After breakfast, we just, like, could stay. It was so weird. It was like that for the first, few weeks. It was really like I would start to, after Sunday breakfast, I would start to, like, head to the bedroom and look through clothes and get a bag out, and my husband would be like, "You don't have to do that." I'm like, oh, like, I did that for the first couple weeks, like, and the kids would just laugh at me. I'm like, there's no need to laugh at me. We have gone through this so many times, just don't laugh at me. So come last February, so March or April, we got our taxes and we went and got tattoos. My husband got 1/26/11 right down here, and I got it right here, 1/26/2011. That's actually the day that the adoption papers were signed. So, and we didn't find out till a couple days after February. So, and then their initials, T, V, K, and C for Tish, Virgil, Kara, Canaan, and they each have a star, and then their color. So blue, purple, green, and like a pinkish red. So we went and got those. Done. And since then, it's just been fun. We don't have to go back. We don't have to do anything. I have been asked quite a few times that, if we find out that bio mom is pregnant, are we going to take that child? Well, I'll take that child if it doesn't require me to move back to Oregon. That it would be something that we would really, 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 really have to sit and think about. Because yes, I would hate the fact to have that my kids would have a sibling out there that they knew nothing about. But yet, I don't want to go through what we did already. It was such an emotional wreck for everyone. I would not want to go through that. So it would be something that we would really, really, really have to sit and talk about. But yeah, so that's our adoption story, kind of in a nutshell. Well, yeah, pretty much. It's just a very long process, and yeah. So thank you for watching. Now I gotta go do another video. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.